Hi, 8th grade. Welcome to my second Prezi presentation on Punnett squares, predicting genetic outcomes. Today's lesson is going to introduce you to a real-life situation using Punnett squares and how they can be useful. You also have a corresponding worksheet, as you can see here, that you should be looking at and filling out as we go along. I'll give you cues as to when you might need to refer to your worksheet and fill something out. So make sure you're closely paying attention to that. All right, let's get started. Punnett squares, predicting genetic outcomes. Real life situation. So let's take a look at my family, because that's what our example is going to be about. And the question I'm posing to you is, how can two brown-eyed parents have a green-eyed child? As you can see from this picture, that this is my husband, Augie, and he has brown eyes. This is me, and I have brown eyes. But yet our daughter, Rosie, has green eyes. How's that possible? Let's take a look at our parents. Maybe that'll give us some clues. All right, these are Meet the Parents. These are Augie's parents. This is Jim, and he has brown eyes. And this is Joan, and she has blue eyes. And these are my parents. This is Vince, and he has green eyes. And this is my mom, Paula, and she has brown eyes. And our parents often give us clues as to how the offspring will look, how their children are going to look. So let's take a look at the siblings as well to kind of give us some more clues as to how can two brown-eyed parents have a green-eyed child. Now, my husband Augie and I were really lucky that our parents each had multiple children. And the more offspring that are present allows us to better determine what the genotypes of the parents are going to be. So this is my husband Augie's family. These are his brothers. This is his brother Jimmy, and he has blue eyes. This is his brother John, and he has blue eyes. This is his brother Paul, and he has brown eyes. And this is my husband, and he has brown eyes. And this is my family. This is me. I have brown eyes. This is my sister Claudia, and she has green eyes. And this is my sister Victoria, and she has brown eyes. So let's take a close look at the worksheet for a minute. And it kind of gives us some hints about eye color. In this particular situation, brown eyes are the dominant gene, and they're going to be represented by an uppercase letter B. And blue and green eyes are the recessive gene, and they're going to be represented by a lowercase b. So first off, we're going to focus on my husband's family. And this is going to be the Punnett square you're going to use for them. So let's go back to the Prezi and take a look at my husband's parents. Okay, so Jim has brown eyes and Joan has blue eyes. We already have a clue here. We know that blue and green eyes are the recessive gene. And you know from previous lessons that in order for a recessive gene to show up in a phenotype, there have to be two alleles. So we know right off the bat that Joan is going to be little b for blue eyes. So on the Punnett square, you can fill in Joan for homozygous recessive little b. So we know that right away that's what her genotype is. Now, Jim is going to be a little bit more difficult to figure out because he has brown eyes and that's the dominant gene. However, if you remember, two of the brothers have blue eyes and two of the brothers have brown eyes. So that tells you that in order for two of the brothers to have blue eyes, Jim must have a recessive gene for blue eyes. Okay, he still has the dominant gene for brown eyes, but he carries that recessive gene for blue. You don't see the blue, but it's there. So that makes him heterozygous for brown eyes. So he is represented by a big B and a little b. So you can fill that in on your Punnett square. I want you to take a moment. I want you to cross Jim and Joan in the Punnett square. And as you can see, they have a 50% chance of their children having blue or green eyes and a 50% chance that their children will have brown eyes. And it just so happened they had 4 children, and 2 of them had blue and 2 of them had brown. That's a coincidence. But it also gives us a nice representation of their genes being crossed. So, take note also that the 2 opportunities their children had, that 50% chance of having brown eyes. They're going to carry that recessive gene. So that should give you a hint as to what my husband Augie's genotype is. So kind of keep that in mind. Now let's look at my family. So look at the other Punnett square for Vince and Paula. Again, we have a clue as to what my father's genotype is because he has green eyes. Remember, blue and green eyes are a recessive trait, and you have to have 2 of them for it to be visible in the phenotype. So my father is homozygous recessive for green eyes. So his genotype is going to be little b. Also, again, my mother has the brown eyes, so her genotype is a little more difficult to figure out. But we have a clue. We have my sister Claudia. Notice Claudia has green eyes, and the only possible way that Claudia could have green eyes is because my mom carries a recessive trait for blue-green eyes. And I also know that for a fact because my grandfather had blue eyes, so the trait is in the family for her to have that recessive trait. So my mom's genotype is big B, little b, and she's heterozygous for brown eyes. And if you cross my parents, you'll see again that their Punnett square is identical to my husband Augie's families. 2 opportunities, 50% chance for the children to have blue or green eyes, and a 50% chance for the children to have brown eyes. Notice again that any children they have that have brown eyes carry that recessive gene for blue-green eyes. And that should give you a hint for my genotype. So I'm going to pose that final question to you again. Can 2 brown-eyed parents have a green-eyed child? You've been given information, and based upon the information about my family and Mr. Schmidt's family, you should be able to figure out what our genotypes are, and you can cross us in the Punnett square. Based upon the information that you get from the Punnett square and from the background knowledge that you now have about my family, you should be able to complete the last question on the worksheet. Can 2 brown-eyed parents have a green-eyed child? And provide support for that. I look forward to hearing your responses tomorrow in class. And as always, please contact me if you have any questions. Thank you.